Welcome to our fourth installment of our Canton Chamber University series, Canton Business Building Bridges. It's sponsored by the Canton Chamber of Commerce on the Canton Chamber University platform. And we're proud to be partnering with Canton Township and the Interfaith Leadership Council. I'm Pamela Batcho. I am the Member and Community Engagement Director for the Canton Chamber of Commerce, and I'm honored to be your moderator for this series. The purpose of the series is to unite the business sector with the diverse citizen population in Canton Township. You may ask why this is important. Well, we believe that all citizens and employees deserve to be seen and equally respected, no matter their religious beliefs, national heritage, skin color, shopping opportunities, or native language. This relates to everything that's included in being a part of Canton, whether you're a resident, employee, or a business owner. Shopping, housing, religious observation, time, and more. We also believe that businesses may be missing opportunities to provide goods and services to community residents because they don't understand the buying habits of the diverse groups around holy days and celebrations. We also feel that businesses need to be encouraged to welcome visitors by acknowledging their holidays and also to accommodate employee needs to worship and celebrate during these times. It's our goal that both businesses and individuals will benefit from the mutual education provided by this series. And speaking of education, we had a rearranging of the schedule of panelists for May and June because we were not educated on some of the religious opportunities by some of the participants, specifically the Jewish community. They have a day of obligation on June 13th, which meant that none of them would probably be able to be here. So we moved the Christian part of the conversation to June and brought the Jewish part of the conversation up to May. So we're all learning together through this. Today, our panel discussion will focus on the Hindu and Jewish communities in Canton. Representing both communities are engaged and involved individuals with diverse backgrounds and experiences. We'll allow them to discuss their individual group holy days, celebrations, and observations, as well as to talk about their personal experiences when living, doing business, and working in Canton. Next, we'll ask them some more questions to bring a little bit more understanding to these subjects. Following that, we'll open up the floor for questions from the audience or anyone on Zoom. It is being monitored. If you have a question for the panel or a comment about your experience, please go to the microphone at the podium there to my right and use the microphone there. Make sure that you speak clearly into the microphone as well. So we're happy to share that the series is being filmed and aired by the Canton Cable team and will be preserved on the Canton Chamber website for viewing at a later date. Now I'm going to ask the two panels to introduce themselves individually and their citizen group. I'm going to start with the Jewish panel, and then we'll go to the Hindu panel. So I'm going to start on the end with Murray. Make sure the green light's on.
Oh, it's on. The green light's on.
There you go.
Can you guys hear me?
No, try hitting the green light one more time. Now it's really on.
Now it's on. Well, my name is Murray Tobin, and I've been a Canton resident since 2003, originally from Cleveland, Ohio. I am a Reformed Jew. For those of you that aren't aware, there are three sects, S-E-C-T-S, three sects of Judaism: Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform. I'm a Reformed Jew, which is the most liberal of the three sects. And what else did you want to know about me?
I think that covers it just fine.
Okay, well, there you go.
And Carolyn.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Normandin, and I am the Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL. That's a civil rights organization that protects not only the Jewish community. Our mission is to fight anti-Semitism and also secure equal justice and fair treatment for all. My office ends up taking incidents of hatred towards Jews and towards any type of incident of hatred. Our office reviews, analyzes, and reports on. And I am not a rabbi. I am a member of a Reform congregation, Temple Israel. I do serve as a a Shiva leader as a volunteer. I'm a lay leader, and what that means is I go to people's homes when they are mourning the loss of a loved one, and I help them recite memorial prayers during the period of Shiva.
Elaine?
Yes, my name is Elaine Snyderman, and my husband Ed and I moved to Michigan about 11 years ago to create havoc for our son Stephen. And we lived in Ann Arbor until last year when we moved here to Canton. In Ann Arbor, I was part of the Jewish community there and also belonged to the Reform Temple. We moved here from Connecticut, where there was a very large, diverse Jewish population. Besides the Reform and Orthodox and Conservative, and even in Ann Arbor, there are subdivisions of each of those three. There is a joke that goes around in the Jewish tradition, and it could be true in many others, that if there are 2 Jews left on a desert island, there will certainly be 3 synagogues. And my whole life, I've been part of the Jewish tradition back in Connecticut and involved in boards on different synagogues. So I like doing the same thing here in Michigan.
Thank you. Steve? Steven?
Steven Snyderman, already been outed as the son of Elaine. I have been a Canton resident for over 30 years, and I have been also a public servant here in the community. I'm currently a township trustee and have served the community for 12 years, almost 12 years as such. And before that, I was president of the school board and have lived and worked here and raised my family for the last 30 years. I guess the one thing I'll mention is one of the things I'm most proud of is having served on the township board, that we were able to pass a non-discrimination ordinance here in Canton to ensure no one in the categories that you, Pam, have mentioned in your introduction can be discriminated against legally in our community. So if we want to talk more about that, I'm glad to.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Now, on the other side of the table, we have Harita and Dave. We're going to start with Harita.
Hi, everyone. My name is Harita. I been in Canton for most of my life. I grew up here, did all my schooling here, public health district, the public school district. I work in public health. What I meant to say, I work full-time for the University of Michigan as a research scientist. Outside of that, I do volunteer my time with the Hindu Community Relations Council of Michigan, which is a unified platform that we strive to educate and advocate for the Hindu population for the state of Michigan and all the communities and localities within it, and try to be the unified source of information to dispel misinformation and support the communities in legal issues, social issues, and everything that comes under that umbrella. I'm first-generation American. My parents immigrated from India, so that's my background of growing up here as an Indian American.
Hi.
Dave.
Yes, Piyush Dev. I'm a realtor, served this community since 2005. In Canton, there are 2 temples, BAPS Hindu Temple and Hindu Temple on Cherry Road. I'm a life member of both the temples and serving here since long.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you to all of you for volunteering your time today. I believe that this is a really important conversation to have, and I thank you for being here. So, we're going to start with our Hindu community panelists. Tell us a little bit, Harita, about the holidays that are celebrated by your Hindu community, and maybe some of your experiences with the foods or the traditions, maybe the buying habits around those holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely start. Hinduism is a religion that's followed majorly by many Indians, but also from neighboring countries. So you might find people from Nepal celebrating, following Hinduism, Bangladesh, and other neighboring countries. But so just because you come across an Indian, they may not be Hindu. India does have a diverse spectrum of faiths. But one of the major holidays that many Indians, Hindus look forward to is Diwali, which is towards the end of the year. I like to explain it to my friends that it is holds the significance and importance if you combine Thanksgiving and Christmas all together. Because what happens during Diwali is, families come together, a lot of food is cooked, but a lot of gifts are given. Families traditionally like to wear new clothing. They buy clothes for everyone in the family. And in India, it's a federal holiday. Everyone is off from work and school. And here, a lot of times it falls during the weekday. So many times, maybe people will celebrate it when they come home from work, or they will take the day off and celebrate it with their family if it's possible. But there are many other holidays in the Hindu calendar, and different regions celebrate every holiday differently. So if businesses do want to get educated about other holidays, you can always come to an organization like our organization, or find out what other holidays. One that is getting a little bit more of a spotlight is the festival of Holi, which happens during this time of the year, around March, April. And a lot of times it's indicated by, they call it the Festival of Colors. People throw colors, and it's kind of the mark of the start of spring. The Canton Temple, and I think also the BAPS temple, all the Hindu temples in the area do celebrate it in their parking lots outside. And Hinduism is very inclusive. So we never close our gates to anyone outside of the Hindu faith to come and celebrate with us. But I think our goal is just to have a sense of belonging in a community, to be able to, celebrate these holidays, but make sure that everyone feels comfortable as well.
She covered a lot of good stuff.
Okay. Does your family itself have any particular traditions that they do around either one of those holidays?
All the holidays, most of the Hindus do like birth of the gods, like a Ram birth, like Ram Navami. Krishna's birthday is like Janmashtami. All that celebration, all the Hindus do at the temple, and at the home also we cook sweets and celebrate together with the other cousins and family members and all. Lot of other individual like Raksha Bandhan, like sister goes to the brother's home and tie the Rakhi, means one cloth, like not cloth but string. Yes. So that gives strength to brother, and brother do the serve to sister.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I'll also, I forgot one thing. Diwali also, on top of the food and the clothing and the gifts, fireworks are also set off during that time of the year. A lot of times it is called the Festival of Lights, but people will light candles. I know in my house, it's freezing cold in that October, November time sometimes, but we will still aim to do some small sparklers, put candles on the porch, bringing in that holiday.
We have special kind of candle, diva, like there is
Like diva?
Yes, so small with the ghee, and that we do every home do outside the home of that.
Wonderful. Quick question before we pass over to the other community. How are the dates of the holidays determined? Are they on the same day every year?
They are based on the lunar calendar, so they do shift. Every year they shift, either go earlier in the year, later in the year. But those calendars are released earlier on, so people do have time to plan on when those holidays are going to be, and whether they will fall on a weekend or a weekday. And everybody in the Hindu community knows those days ahead of time, and we're able to plan.
So let me just clarify something just to make sure that I understood, and for everyone else. So we're saying Diwali is a celebration more of family, where the family gathers, like the Thanksgiving meal or the Christmas holiday, and Holi is more the community being together.
No, Diwali also we have gathering both the temple. BAPS Swaminarayan temple have big all the sweets together like they pile up to the.
Okay.
So
So-
they have community gathering on Diwali. Both the temple, Hindu temple also have big celebration with Diwali.
Okay.
So, and one part of India, Gujarat, celebrate New Year next day of Diwali. So they have in morning also celebration, greet each other Happy New Year.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So it truly is kind of everything all rolled into one.
And this year Diwali is on November 1. So most of the time is November or
Late
around.
October.
Yeah.
We have a lot of festivals during that time. So, like he was mentioning, some regions of the country may celebrate their New Year as well. Not all regions. There's also another festival right before Diwali called Navaratri. So there's a lot of festivals, but Diwali is one that unifies the entire country. So it is very much one that everyone celebrates around that time, and very community based. And Holi is also very community based as well. But people will celebrate at home too, providing the clothing is giving gifts and clothing is a big part of a lot of the Hindu festivals. And so that aspect of family is always there, integral in all the holidays.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
Can I ask which one has the colorful display of food? Yeah,
Diwali.
where it-
Diwali.
It's at
Yeah,
Diwali.
yeah,
That's
I can
gorgeous.
share video after this, photos like they both temples do
I
really,
recommend-
really good. And after that, they will have dinner also over that with that food and sweet. You will not imagine that kind of vegetarian plates like 100 plus or 200 plus varieties out there.
So I'm going to give you my email address when we get done. I want pictures from this year.
Definitely,
okay?
I will
All
send you
right.
pictures and
It's
photos.
fantastic. I suggest people go to the temples to see that display. It's
Yes,
amazing.
they're amazing.
Wonderful. Now to our Jewish community. I'm going to start with the family pair here and let us hear a little bit about what you've done around celebrations and observances.
Me too.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, ancient religions share a lot of the same things. Jewish dates are on the lunar calendar. In fact, every 7 years, we have a leap month. That's very confusing, twice. But the lunar month works out that we have different dates, and they also are published years in advance, those with scientific minds years ago. Very often, we celebrate for 2 nights because we like to coordinate back in the day when the word would go out. 5,000 years ago, nobody knew exactly when it was. So we overlap a 2-day celebration, such as in our New Year, which is in the fall. And it's called Rosh Hashanah, which means the head of the year. And that is 2 days usually, and followed a week later by a fast day, where from sundown to sunset, the next day is a fast day and a very holy day,
Called Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur, Day of Repentance. That day is probably our most sacred day because we make our peace with God and man. We spend the day in prayer in synagogue, praying to God. But anything that we have done to other humans or community, we are responsible for asking their forgiveness. God does not forgive that. So I always thought that was pretty interesting. But we have also similar holidays. We have a festival of light, which comes very close to Christmas, where for 8 nights, you've probably seen pictures of menorahs, which is the 8 candelabra. And it's really a children's holiday. We give gifts, and we eat wonderful food like potato pancakes, things that we eat enough of that will last us an entire year. And we have Passover in the spring. I think everybody has seen the Charlton Heston movie where he plays Moses parting the Red Sea. That's what we celebrate in that. And then we have lesser holidays that we plant trees, we eat the fruits in the spring. I see a lot of similarities as being of an ancient religion, which is wonderful. There's more that unites us than divides us. And I think that's the most important thing to remember. We give gifts at Hanukkah, but other holidays we celebrate a lot in the home and with the community so that it strengthens that.
Do you have anything to add, or did your mom take everything away?
No, that's good.
So-
And if the others have others to add, other holidays, no,
Sure.
those are the major ones we celebrate.
Okay. Carolyn?
Thank you. I thought that was really great. By the way, my son's birthday was Tuesday. He requested potato latkes for his birthday.
Really?
And so we had the traditional Hanukkah potato pancakes we had on Tuesday night. And my husband makes great potato latkes. In preparation for this, I agree with you about several things. There are so many connections between Judaism and other ancient religions, and sometimes other newer practices. One thing I wanted to clarify is Judaism is more than a religion. There's Jewish characteristics of nationhood and ethnicity, its ancestry, its culture, and a lot of Jews pick and choose, just like any other religion, whether they're going to go with religious tenets or they're going to do cultural celebrations. It can be very confusing. ADL has some resources. For those of you here, I have hard copies, and I will leave them. I will email Pam so she can put them on the website. And those are just, there are a couple of things. There are some days of obligations that we as Reform Jews may not connect with completely. But I highlighted the days for those of you who own businesses or things like that. There are days where Orthodox Jews will not work. For example, the first 2 days of Passover or the last 2 days of Passover. For most of us who are Reform up here, we'll have a Seder. We might have 2 Seders. We would give up all leavened products. We would give up all, cakes and pastries and anything that had wheat in them. And we might even buy strictly kosher for Passover things in the market. But for Orthodox Jews, they will not work on the first 2 days of Passover and the last 2 days of Passover. So because it becomes complicated, I brought these resources. ADL, and ADL has a calendar of observances for all, it's a comprehensive calendar. Diwali is on there. Ramadan is on here. So this is such a lengthy document that it's listed on the sheet of paper that I have here called Resources from ADL, and you can click on it and it is updated. I also tell people all the time, if you want to know about a Jewish day of obligation, to go to a website that's characterized, that is owned or operated by something called Chabad, Chabad, because those are the most religious, observant Orthodox Jews that put forth lots of information on the calendar. So if you check with a Chabad calendar, you'll have a good observational tool. The other thing I would mention when we talk about holidays, 2 other things, and that is Jewish days start at sundown. They don't start at midnight like most secular. The secular calendars is different, just like you mentioned, and it's a lunar calendar. But Jewish days start at sundown. And you often hear a Jewish person say, Erev Yom Kippur, the eve of Yom Kippur. Because at sundown, whether sundown is 5 o'clock at night in December or 4:30 at night, or if it's 9:30 at night on June 21st, sundown is sundown. And so that's when Jews typically start their holidays. So somebody who works for you, who says, I need Tuesday off because it's Passover. They might say, I need to leave so that I'm home before sundown. I can't work Monday evening. So that's an important thing. The other thing I wanted to mention is most Jews, whether they actively light candles for the Sabbath, they know what they are. And these are candles that are used throughout the year on Friday nights. These are Sabbath candles. And sometimes, no matter what I'm doing, I stop and light the Sabbath candles. And Sabbath is one of the holiest times in the week. The idea is you would stop, think about Sabbath. If you're an Orthodox Jew, you wouldn't drive, you wouldn't turn on lights. It's really, it becomes very complicated. The other thing I wanted to mention is people see these in the grocery store all the time too. These are memorial candles. It's considered an obligation for most Jews to remember the anniversary of their loved one's death, for parents, spouses, siblings, and God forbid, children. You light a 24-hour memorial candle, and you light that on the anniversary of the person's death, but you also light it in 4 days of obligation that coincide with some of the holidays that you talked about, which are Passover, Yom Kippur, Shavuot, which is coming up, which is the reason that we changed this thing. It's a holy day of obligation. And then the last day of Sukkot is a little known I practiced it all my life, but it wasn't till I was well into adulthood that I knew it was called Shemini Atzeret. So my mom had passed away. I knew it was a day of obligation for me to say the Kaddish, the memorial service, on the last day of Sukkot. But the holiday actually has a name, and it's called Shemini Atzeret. So I brought you this very colorful tool, and you can grab it as you go. It becomes very complicated with a job like mine, and I counsel companies or organizations, schools, on how to navigate their way through some of these holier days. And I think the most important thing to remember is intentionality and trying to figure out. And I will mention that when I called Pam and she said, "Can you come here on the 13th?" I said to her, actually, it's a day of obligation that day, and it's Shavuot. It's a very important holiday. It's when the Jews got the Torah, the Ten Commandments, the 5 books of Moses. So I think the intentionality to learn is really, really awesome, and it's why I love participating in anything that happens in Canton, Michigan.
Thank you, Carolyn. Murray.
Well, I'm glad my two Jewish colleagues spoke first, because I am a non-practicing Jew. I married a Catholic girl, so we observe the Jewish holidays in our home. Our girls, of course, are now adults, but growing up, we observed the holidays, but we didn't attach a lot of religious significance to them. One of the reasons is that I grew up, let me see, my junior high school was probably 90% Jewish. My high school was probably about 75% Jewish. So a lot of these things we took for granted. I mean, I would have, when I went to college, I would have, friends of mine ask me about Judaism, and I don't know. I just took it for granted that that's what it was like. There's really nothing that I can add to that. The other thing is I don't always, but I would tell people I'm a movie buff. And if you want to understand about Judaism today, I would urge you to see 2 movies, Fiddler on the Roof and Schindler's List. And I think that both of those, especially today, gives you a good feeling of what it is like to be a Jew. But
I'd add one more movie. I'm a movie buff too, and that's called Gentleman's Agreement with Gregory Peck.
Gregory Peck.
And that kind of talks about anti-Semitism in the insidious way that anti-Semitism raises its ugly head. But I agree with you on both the other two as well.
Thank you, Murray. I'm going to direct a couple of questions to you while we're still on kind of the personal side before we get more into the business and community side. So you say that you consider yourself a non-practicing Jew and you married a Catholic girl. How did that affect your relationships with family, friends, community? Were you viewed any differently?
That's a very, very good question. I was very fortunate because it had very little impact on my parents or my cousins or my family. They were all very accepting. I do recall once when I was in high school, so that was, and you know, we went to religious school, and again, most of my friends were Jewish, but I do remember in high school one time I wanted to go out on a date with a non-Jewish girl, and my parents were not happy, and they pretty much said no, which bummed me out. But no, otherwise, my family, most of us married in the Jewish faith. It's interesting, I'm the oldest of 3 boys, and not one of us married a Jewish girl. So I don't know how my parents felt about that. But, and unfortunately, 2 of those marriages didn't work out. I'm the one that worked out. But it took some work. I remember particularly we wanted to get married by a rabbi and a priest, and that was not easy to do. We did find a rabbi, and took with some friends' help, we did find a rabbi and a priest that were willing to co-officiate. The other thing that was a little bit of a problem was in the Jewish religion, the children are the religion of the mother, not the father. So although I was Jewish, in the Jewish religion, our girls were not considered Jewish. They would have had to convert to become Jews. But we always practiced both holidays, both, you know, Easter, Passover, Hanukkah, Christmas. If you give me about a minute, I'll share a humorous anecdote. My children's cousins were very jealous of our children because we would celebrate Hanukkah and Christmas. So and as was stated, in Hanukkah you exchange gifts with, well, you don't exchange, you give your children gifts. So they would get Christmas gifts and Hanukkah gifts. One child was born in December and one child was born in November. So they hit the trifecta. They would get all kinds of presents for those couple months, and their cousins were very jealous. But we worked it out.
Wonderful. One more question. You also said you didn't know much about Judaism growing up. Is it because you lived it and you weren't necessarily taught some of the meanings behind it, or why do you think that might have been?
I think because, first of all, we did go to religious school. We went to Sunday school. I went through Sunday school at my temple through the 9th grade. It was most of my contemporaries went to religious school. Our temple's high school, a lot fewer went, but I did. My parents wanted me to go. I stuck with religious school through the 12th grade. But again, because these were the people that I hung around with, we just kind of took it for granted. We all celebrated the same holidays. We ate the same kinds of food. My dad kept kosher, my mom partially. So for example, we never had ham or pork in the house, but my mom served bacon. My dad wouldn't eat it. But, so it was just our common shared experience. It really didn't cause I guess I was very fortunate. It was never a problem with my mom and dad.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your personal experiences and how you kind of grew up with your religion or religions, in your case, Murray. And we're going to go a little bit now to a little bit quicker questions. Hopefully it won't take a lot of, thought process. I'm not necessarily rapid fire, but I want to hear about how you have experienced working, shopping, dealing with businesses in Canton. And then at the end of these questions, I'm going to ask if you have maybe any suggestions for how we could improve on that. If it's perfect, which I don't know that it would ever be, then that's great. But if you have any ideas, we'll be good to start that. So I'm going to start with you, sir.
So in my industry, real estate industry, we don't have, I think, any problem. Very diversified. Like like she said, Hinduism is also practice, like big vast practice, like holy medicine, Ayurveda, yoga. They all came from India, Hinduism. Same thing, one thing came Vastu, like they believe which facing is good for the house and all that. So in our industry, real estate industry, almost all builder salespersons knows that, like which facing is, they will ask, they know that well by this time, because we have big community here. And retail businesses and all that, I think last couple of year or 3 years, we started here in Canton community. We are celebrating firework and gathering and dance and music and food and all. Same thing, White House started so many years ago. Every year, White House has Diwali festival in the White House. But still, retail, we don't see that much any different in big box like Meyer, Kroger, all that. They don't have like Happy Diwali banner or... So if that will start, that will be great. Some of the community in New Jersey, New York area, counties have holiday for the Diwali. Now in Canton, I think very big community out there. Lot of school have lot of percentage of students may want to go at temple and celebrate Diwali. If we start day off for Diwali, that will be great.
Yeah, I think growing up in Canton, I can definitely see a really positive change on how it has embraced the community. I mean, and it's not that we were offended or anything. We were dealing with what was available, and so I still remember when we first moved to Canton, which was like late '90s. For Diwali, we would buy the fireworks during the July 4th sale and save it. And whether it was safe or not, I don't know, to keep fireworks in the garage for 7 months. But that's what we were doing, and that's what everyone did. That was the norm, and we didn't really think twice about it. And what has been great is just recently, I think last year for Diwali, we saw, I'm not sure if it's in Canton, but right at the Canton Westland border is a Phantom Fireworks. They had a Diwali sale for fireworks, and that was so great to see. And that's something that can be done more in the community. Walmart has a Diwali display, the one on Ford Road, and that was great to see. And that's a recent, maybe past 2 years to 5 years, seeing that display and putting some, I mean, even any fireworks, it doesn't have to be big ones, because I know fireworks during that time of the year is not, it's a small percentage at the end of the day of people who are celebrating Diwali. It's not like July 4th. So we also don't want to step on anybody's toes during that time. And so we're really happy that the Canton community has been open about letting people set off some fireworks during that night. And outside of the Indian community, I'm on some Facebook groups in the Canton community, and the support from everyone who don't celebrate Diwali, just warning everyone that, hey, this week is Diwali, our Hindu brothers and sisters are going to be setting off some fireworks. Just be aware that like cars are not, backing, what, like just that knowledge and acceptance has been great to see over the past 20 years. But I think outside of that, we're seeing a change. So, and maybe when we are doing suggestions, I'm sure there's some suggestions we can provide, but I think we're already seeing good progress in that area. And which has been great to see and great to be part of this community.
Wonderful. So would there be any times during the year for any of your religious observations or celebrations that your typical work schedule doesn't necessarily fit with the times you would need to be, at the temple? Or are there ways that businesses could be more accommodating to your needs?
So the one thing about Hinduism is that everyone, it's similar to how our Jewish brothers and sisters have talked about, that people celebrate everything slightly different. Some people are a little bit more cultural and they lean into that cultural aspect, and some people really lean into the religious aspect of the holidays. And so everyone has a different way of celebrating. And I think because of how the calendar works and that most of the times it falls on a working day, the temples have also adapted to that. And a lot of the celebrations either happen the following weekend or the weekend before the actual holiday. Of course, after work, people do flock to the temples if they do wish to go on that same day. But if you have people who do work in your companies and businesses that do follow the Hindu faith, and I think some people are probably scared to ask because we have gone so long and people just want to kind of be part of the community and not say anything and not ask for time off. But if there's an acknowledgement and people feel like there's a little bit of comfort level to take the day off, people might do it because that's what, if they came directly from India or another country that celebrated Diwali in a different manner, they're probably used to having that day off. Me growing up here, I have never had that day off, so I don't know how I would do that. But I'm sure if I ask my parents, they have memories of them celebrating when it was a holiday from morning to evening, celebrating the holiday, and being able to replicate that would be probably a good gift to people who are celebrating the faith.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Now to this side. Who would like to be the first one to answer the question about how business kind of influences your worship? Stephen.
Yeah, thanks. Well, first of all, I'm glad to hear that things have changed in your experience over the years. It's something I personally have tried to work on the last 2 decades in our community, and including getting our first Indian Hindu township trustee elected to our board 4 years ago, Tanya Ganguly. So we were very pleased. We feel like our government should reflect our community as a whole. So that's wonderful to hear, and we'll continue to work on that. I think the thing that I wanted to mention to start with is that in Canton itself, I would say the Jewish population is very small compared to the other religions in our community. Not in the region, of course. There are nearby communities, Ann Arbor being one of them, but Bloomfield Hills, West Bloomfield, Oak Park, and areas like that. To be very honest, there are probably only a handful or a dozen of such families in our community that I know about. Now, not to say that there aren't others, and it would be really interesting. It's not something I've asked for, but I probably should have, to ask for any census data that our government has from the last census of, I don't know if you identify yourself as a religion voluntarily in that, but it would be interesting to know. So I think that's something maybe the chamber might want to take a look at, working with the township government, and see whether there are a good number of Jews in our family. There was a synagogue here in the 90s and early 2000s. It was held in the church, actually, in Cherry Hill Village. And there was a good number of families, maybe 20 to 30 families that populated that synagogue. I went to not a religious ceremony, but an event like a fair or something like that with my children when that was going on. But I don't think that exists anymore. I think the children's aged out and no one kept it going. So through my children's friends and my neighbors, I do know of several families, but so it's not surprising when I say that I don't think there's much recognition of the Jewish holidays in our township. at all. I mean, I think we do recognize Hanukkah. That seems to be the one that most communities recognize, with a little menorah in our entranceway or something like that. We don't really have an event. I'm not sure it would be well attended if we did. And besides, I would say Meyer and Kroger having kosher sections, maybe a little this wide column in their areas. I really don't know of much. I mean, I definitely enjoy all the Indian and Muslim, Middle Eastern, Asian food in our community, but there's not one good Jewish deli in Canton. You definitely need to leave our town to find that, but it's not surprising. Although I think many people of many cultures enjoy going to a Jewish deli. But what I would say, it mostly, I mean, we'll get to suggestions later, is that it's not like I'm angry about it. It's just understandable because we haven't had much in the way of people coming out asking for that as well.
Okay, well, thank you. So how does the township help you observe your religious holidays? Do you have special days that you ask for time off? Do they have a block of personal time off that you can utilize however you choose? What works for you, or could that be better?
Well, as far as our employees, because I'm not a full-time
That's true.
employee, so I'm a full-time employee of AT&T. So
So how does
actually,
AT&T handle it?
yeah, and so AT&T nationally and globally has standard holidays that they provide as off, and then they give you optional holidays. So I don't, for each employee to use as they see fit. And so I think that's probably the best way to do it. They've added some like Martin Luther King and Juneteenth in the last few years as standard holidays for everybody. But overall, in terms of your religious holidays, you get somewhere between 5 and 7 optional holidays that you can use as you see fit.
Okay, wonderful.
yeah.
Sounds like that's a step in the right direction there. Just to kind of speed things up, we have about 6 minutes left.
Oh, no.
That's okay. This is a conversation that we didn't intend to complete. We intended to start.
Okay.
So this is perfect. So, Elaine,
Yes.
what do you expect as a customer when you're shopping in Canton? How do you expect to be greeted, received, acknowledged?
Well, first, I would like to say that it's not surprising that there is not a Jewish community here. We are only 0.2% of the entire population of the United States. We are in the news a lot.
World,
In the whole
0.2
world.
in the whole world.
In the whole world. There are only 15 million Jews, 7 million in the United States. We have not a large representation at all, although for a lot of reasons we are prominent. I've always kept a low profile. I don't see any reason to expect anything but good results when I walk into a business, and I haven't been disappointed in Canton. I think it's wonderful. Because I think it's such a diverse community, I can't think of any group that would feel discriminated against here.
Thank you. That's going to lead me to our last question, and I'm going to give everybody just a 1-second chance to give an answer. Murray, we're going to start with you. How can businesses reach out to welcome you? Do you feel welcomed when you walk into every business?
Yeah.
Okay. Use your microphone if you would, please. Thank you. That's okay.
I'm 77 years old, and I can probably count on the number of fingers of one hand in my entire life where I've felt a victim of anti-Semitism everywhere I've lived, and definitely including Canton.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Carolyn?
I've said before that one of the reasons I always respond to Chief Bow's calls or your call is because I find Canton to be an exceptionally inclusive community. In my business, which is where people are reporting incidents of hatred, and they're all across all across the state of Michigan, all across the country, all across the world. I think the most important thing is for forums like this. From a business standpoint, I think the best thing for businesses to do is, and bosses to do, is ask questions. What do you need? What are your religious observances? How can I help you feel like your needs are being met? I would say the same thing for businesses. Take a look at the Jewish holidays and take a look at, like, Jewish people eat dairy on Shavuot. Have a lot of ice cream in the store, or take advantage of the fact that at Rosh Hashanah, there's going to be a run on honey, or there's going to be a run on briskets, and things like that. So understanding the opportunity of some of the cultural nuances, and again, I would say the difference between a religious observance and a cultural nuance. There are a lot of Jews that don't go to synagogue, but they are gathered around for Hanukkah or Passover, and they celebrate culturally. And so having the foods in that are associated with that holiday is a good idea. I would say also one last thing is make sure that you open the tent for any person at any location in any religion, because there's no scarcity of opportunity. The only time people call me is when people are angry about things. And for a community to be inclusive doesn't harm anybody. It just makes the community better.
Thank you very much. Elaine?
The only thing that I would say is with Google, you can look up any holiday. You can look up Passover if you have a business. Is there something that I can input into my advertising for that particular holiday that would welcome the Jewish people into my store? It's mainly food. Jews are really big on food. But such as when you get to Yom Kippur, though, and we're fasting, I've seen in my past, here for your feast, wonderful ham, that it isn't necessary today with your social media. You can find out anything. What would be good to do? What would not be good to do? Do your homework.
Thank you. Stephen?
Just to add on that in 30 seconds, I would say that I don't see it a requirement for businesses to advertise holidays in our community, but if they choose to do so, be inclusive, advertise the holidays of all people. And so if you are going to advertise Christmas, say Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays specifically for the Christian holidays, do it for the Hindu holidays, do it for the Muslim holidays, do it for the Jewish holidays as well. And you have the information on how to do that.
Be inclusive.
Be inclusive, yeah. That makes everyone feel welcome.
I think I know we're running out of time, but I just wanted to add things about, like, for the holidays, what can business do for, like, especially Diwali, and what they can leverage. I know I mentioned fireworks and having a Diwali display, but I think also businesses that cater food, Diwali is big for food, and not just for Indian restaurants, to be available for catering options, because a lot of corporate companies are now holding a corporate Diwali party for their employees, because a lot of the automotive companies have a large Hindu population, and not just automotive companies, any company. But I think other restaurants can get into that pool to advertise and make an ease for catering, because I've heard that sometimes some Indian restaurants open late and they're not available sometimes for lunchtime catering. So, but just like our other panelist says, Hindus love food too. So it doesn't have to be Indian food for the party, as long as they can congregate together and celebrate. And I think also, in the name of inclusion, I'll just end with this, just keeping true to the names of the holidays. Recently, Diwali, a lot of times people are calling it the Festival of Lights, and Holi, they're calling it the Festival of Colors, and you're losing the true name of the holiday. And I get the intention is not, there's no malintent behind it. They're trying to make it a holiday where people feel like, oh, let me also come because it's including everybody. But then you're removing the name that actually truly is there, the holiday, the Diwali name and the Holi name, which is not going to be offensive to other groups. It's still inclusive, everyone who wants to celebrate it, but just maintain those names.
Wonderful.
I think everything has to be covered. Like Hinduism, main motto is Vasudevam Kutumbam, means entire world is one family. So we were not facing any discrimination. Basically, we accepted everyone. Everyone is accepting us. Like Fortune 500 CEO and CFOs, lot of currently from Hinduism. Same thing in here also in Canton, lot of retail business, lot of restaurant and more big retail grocery stores is coming. So big stores also can have few aisle or one aisle for the Indian grocery, and Diwali they can. Lot of wholesale sweet manufacturers are here for the sweets. They can buy from there and keep it at the Diwali time, so everybody can purchase from one stop.
Wonderful. Those are great suggestions. We don't have to go to that question. Thank you, everyone, again, for your time, the insights that you shared. This has been a wonderful segment, and I really appreciate everything. Does the audience have anything they'd like to ask or add? Seeing none? This concludes this segment of Canton Chamber University's Canton Business Building Bridges. Please join us for the next engagement, which will be on June 13th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right here in this room, the boardroom at the Canton Municipal Complex. And we're going to host the Christian and the Asian Pacific Islander Americans for that event. The last in the series will be on July 18th. At 1 o'clock also here, and we're calling that the Learning and Moving Forward. It's going to be a panel discussion on how we take this from here. Are there more conversations like this we need? How do we need to work it into the community and affect the entire community? So if you'd like to become involved in this discussion as either a panelist or a contributor, please contact the Canton Chamber of Commerce. My name is Pamela Batcho, Batcho, and I can be reached there as well. Thank you very much, and thank you again to the Canton Cable Channel for filming this.
Thank you.